Good afternoon again. So we are going to start right now. Again, I don't have a microphone and my voice tends to fall, so please don't hesitate to interrupt me so that it goes high enough. The presentation today is a presentation that is very dear to me and that came to be into effect 2 months ago at the level of the Carol's Club. And so we decided to call it Brain Bonanza for one reason or the other. And it was made possible by the work of a team. So it's a nice team that we had working on it, and I am very grateful to each and every person in that team that have made this possible along with the authorization of the club. So one of the key persons is David Petrucci, who is now basically showing his own Brain Bonanza by doing the El Camino in Spain. He's been doing 30 days walk right now, quite phenomenal. And then each and every one of the other person has been instrumental. My name is Eric. I'm not a member of the Carol Creek, but I was brought on board to assist and help in this presentation. And so what we have here, and I'll go a little bit over here, the purpose of this program is actually a vehicle to present and share information regarding overall brain health. And this would be through presentation and workshop that are didactic and pragmatic as well as practical for the person. And here is Johnson, without whom nothing would happen, and who is really in filigree the presence of everything. So what happened in terms of Brain Bonanza is that there is an awareness of the issue of brain aging. And brain aging is a worldwide issue, especially with the baby boom moving into the next phase. So that has been basically a problem that came for on the worldwide level. We have several references that started looking into it ever since the last several years, and among whom the WHO, the World Health Organization, for which we will come back a little bit later. Brain aging is a key concept in terms of clubs. And so in terms of the Rotary Club, you can find literature that spans from 2016 all the way to 2017, which was a wake-up call, says, we have an issue. And so those documents are key to read in terms of understanding of what the issue is that we have a brain aging and a membership issue that needs to be addressed. And the call for action was also set into place there. Rotary Club is not the only one. All membership clubs have the same issue. And so part of this coincidentally brought us into working together at this level. Now, the response to the issue come for, again, this was coincidental to us setting up the first few workshops. The World Health Organization just published about 3 weeks ago in the spring 2019 the Global Strategy and Action Plan for Aging and Health. I was really elated when I saw that because it was like, this is fantastic. We are on the same wavelengths with global concern. And so we're basically following along and see what we can do here. So no one can escape this issue. If you think you can, great for you. But this is what happened to your brain as you age. It goes down. And so it goes down so much that we have basically in terms of your cerebral cortex, that's a green line, and then basically here, the lateral ventricle, what that means really, this is growing up, this is going down, your brain is replaced by fat, allegorically and structurally, basically. As the brain shrinks down, the space between them start to increase and there is a replacement of that. So I'm using this as a figure just to make sure that really this is the space where we go as we age. So in terms of the general community, what happened is that most of us, statistically, the health concern is like the brain is number 2. Asking around us and say, what's important when you age? Second one. First one, keep your heart. Second one, keep your brain. That's really important. But with that comes a contradiction or an interesting paradox. We all agree, but no one knows what to do. So 9% out of 10 is like, what should I do with an aging brain? And so that's where we are, and that's where we come from. So for us, in terms of the Carol the Carol Club, we were like, how do we increase the brain health of the club, which means the brain health of the individual, which then translate into the brain health of the overall structure. And what we were looking for is how do we get people more engaged, how do we retain members, and how do we establish more connection between members. And we also applied a system approach to the problem. Now, there are many options, and it was very interesting as we implemented the program and sat down with the different committees. Everyone had a word to say. What if we do this? What if we do that? What if we do that? There's a lot of things that can be done in terms of addressing overall health and brain health, but we had to start somewhere, and by starting somewhere mean take something out, put something in. So we applied a rationale, and that's the rationale I moved into. Is like, if we are going to do this, we need to be evidence-based, we need to have a retention-oriented program, and we need to have something that is easy to implement so that we can have track records later on, change things and things like that. And so I was very strong on that, and I'm still very strong on that. Evidence-based means how much can we use research to support the program? And so we have done that. Retention-oriented means, what that means is that in clinical practice, if someone says, everyone knows, if you're going to walk 5 days a week, you're going to be healthier. How many of us do that? Retention means how many people, after hearing a good idea, will continue with this idea. So it's one thing to say, learn another language, and there's only one to do it. So what kind of thing can we deliver that people have the least amount of change so that they can do it? That's where the third one is. Easy to implement. That means easy to implement in terms of knowledge, easy to implement in terms of material. We can learn biofeedback technique, for example, but that's $5,000 machine. That's not practical. So we came out with that, with those elements in place, and we said, okay, that's what we will do in terms of brain and in terms of system thinking. The brain will stabilize around 3 core things to which we can add different elements. We need to have an awareness of certain food, we need to have an awareness of how to breathe, and we need to have an awareness of how to interact in terms of how they stabilize the brain. And that's what we did. We first looked at what happened was we age. Well, the aging of the body differs according to different organs. So basically you'll have the cerebellum could age at around 55. So the balance goes down. That's the first part of the brain that starts to go down. Everything is impacted. So we look at the GI, gastrointestinal system, and then so it becomes less efficient. That means whatever you put in there is not as absorbed as well, and maybe the liver is not absorbing it, the kidney is not doing something, and maybe you're taking medication. So what kind of very easy things can we look at if you are aging and you don't feel good? You are moody, you are feeling your self-worth is not good. Maybe you think you have depression, but maybe you have a first issue to be addressed there. So that was the pragmatic aspect. Lung is the same thing. The whole structure of the lung, both in terms of structure, in terms of physiology, change. And the lung is a very complex system in terms of the interaction with the heart and with the brain. So we just finished the unit on how to look at the breathing, increase your breathing volume, and change certain aspects that are directly related to the mind. And then finally, isolation and purposelessness, which accompanies certain aspects of aging. Maybe we are in retirement, we don't feel as good. Maybe we feel worthless. So I have a friend who's a physician, retired. He feels worthless. He's like, I've been doing medicine all my life, now I'm nobody. And so that's important. And in terms of membership is important. We have members that may be in that place, but they may not be sharing it. One of the things that happened when we started looking into this at the Carol meeting is that people start making jokes. So you had different generations, below 30, below 40, after 50. People were making jokes, so there was a barrier that started to break, which is important. So identifying the issue, we move into some solution, and we look at the diet, we look at how to breathe better, and then, which we finish, in the fall, we look at how to interact better. And so the program from those 3 units developed into the algorithm that we have here. It's a simple algorithm that, although we spread it out into 6 months, is really 30 minutes. It's 3 units: the eating unit, breathing unit, interacting unit. 3 units, 3 subunits each. So, and each one is 30 minutes. So basically 30 minutes is good. The attention span is there. We can assimilate some concept that may not be easy, and we move very quickly. So for example, what we cover is what aspect of supplement should someone look at in conjunction with the physician. What may have been altered because you are taking medication that would affect your mood, that would affect your level of energy, that would affect your anxiety. That's right at the level of supplement, vitamin D, and a variety of different other concepts, magnesium, for example, all those, where a simple blood test and a simple supervision by the physician may change the person's life. In terms of retention and pragmatic, that's really very important for me. Then we look at certain aspect of diet and how certain aspect of changing diet could affect the mood by doing simple change as well, being aware of the sugar fluctuation. Then we move into a field that is important, nootropic, which is brain enhancers. There's a lot of discussion about it. So you have natural brain enhancer, you have prescribed brain enhancer, you have abuse of brain enhancer, you have ginkgo biloba as a natural substance, but we cover that in detail with information on how to try to guide the person intelligently and not fall into those very expensive, unsupported by science supplement. That was that, and then we move into breathing, and then we look at how to breathe in terms of the lung, how to understand the coupling of the heart rate, which is the heart rate variability. It's a universal biomarker that is easily measured by, for example, some of those rings and some of those smartphones that actually are quite important in terms of showing how good you react to stress or not. Simple change, things that you can follow. And then we move into a concept that actually directly influences some aspect of the emotional component as well as some aspect of the physiology. Those research here are supported over the last 5 years. This is it has been a long time, but now it's becoming more and more understandable. Then we will move into the interaction, which is a great topic, with the Da Vinci pairing. The Da Vinci pairing is an internal joke. Internal joke within the Carol's Club, where they had the Da Vinci program before. The Da Vinci pairing is the first step into the interactive program, whereby through a randomly allocation, we have the members below 55 and above 55 being paired together for a meeting. So they have choice, of course, but they are randomly assigned and they go have coffee together. So basically, that basically bridge the gap and also create a dialogue. That has had a lot of success. It's still polished and it has a lot of different ways it can be done. First it was a box. We use box with one number for one person, one number for another person, then we move to the next step. That's that. Important, so that's the implementation. Also it bridged the generation gap, and since we have a conversation about aging, it allows generation to start working together rather than having taboo on that. The second step, which is part of my own research that happened, this altruism and this very cryptic name, eudaimonic, has occurred over the last 4 years through research at NIH that shows, and this is phenomenal for a club like the Rotary Club, altruistic behavior and empathy are beneficial for the individual at the level of the psychoneuroimmunology. So if you're good to others, in a simplified manner, you'll be healthier. That's very important for a club that is oriented toward the welfare of the surrounding. So we look as we now, so basically as you can see, the program is structured as optimize the individual and then move optimized individual into an optimized structure that then through its own example can turn outward and show the example to the community. So that's part of what we are looking for. This, the Da Vinci pairing and the beneficial experience of the other is then used as a support through the wisdom of the elder. Rather than having someone that feels worthless, unappreciated, that doesn't feel good, we turn it positively by the research again, by saying the wisdom of the elder is there to stay. It doesn't matter how much your brain goes down. What stays is crystallized intelligence. That means your experience. Now you bring a person with 40 years of experience as the Rotary Club and interact with a younger one. That's what you have. You now have basically the younger person that may still not have the conceptualization of what it means to become old. And that's interesting in terms of what we do in terms of our group. It's like, because becoming old, you can have the theoretical understanding of what that is, or you can have the grief of losing a member. It's different than experiencing the aging process.
Can you explain what fluid intelligence is and crystallized intelligence? I don't know.
Thank you for the question. Fluid intelligence is what you have on a daily basis. So basically, that's the intelligence that a young brain has, the ability to respond, the ability to learn quickly. All the cognitive function that will allow us when we are 20 to study 3 days in a row and pass an exam, and that we lose when we are 50. Literally, fluid is the ability to be fluid, the young fluidity. Crystallize, we get slower. However, we also get as crystallized as the diamond. That's the experience that, regardless of the age, is actually not lost. So basically, and so that's the cumulated aspect of the two. There has been a lot of research on this. That's very important, and that's what I'm basing myself on, saying a member brings the crystallized intelligence. How do we put that in value? How do we really get it across that this person that may be 80 years old, that doesn't feel good, that cannot move very well, we can optimize them through the first 2 units and bring them and have them valued through the 3rd unit through a pairing system. And then by the experience, the altruistic component, move everything into a place of better functioning. So like this program, our presence here is based on that. We are moving into a place where this is the Da Vinci, I had to put it there so that they acknowledge my presence today. That's very important. This is basically the interconnective component, and this is what we are looking for. So I'm joining here simple image because basically it needs to be both pragmatic but fun at the same time. And now everything that I said here can be found on the website that we are using, Brain Bonanza, or Facebook, which is a Brain Bonanza. All the lectures or the presentation have been videotaped and audio and he's been working on it in a way that they are really splendid in terms of the expertise of the work. So all that, the videotapes are there, and the slideshow accompanying the videotape can be downloaded as well. So it's all there. The reference, so there's each of those units has approximately 50 scientific reference. Each one of those has about a minimum of 50 scientific work that back up the work. So that's basically what we are trying to do. In the fall, we'll finish the 3rd unit. In October, my hope is that we can present to the Carroll Club what we did, because it is really a pilot project. What we did, can we do it better? Is there an interest? Can we move forward? There are already, through this, some interest in California and some interest in Delaware to look at it. Because the purpose of this is that we have an organization. How do we make the individual component aware of or moving towards a better health while creating a dialogue between the different generations? And then at the same time, in doing that, use those new concepts showing that when the organization and the individual move into an altruistic behavior by basically supporting outward program, it also moves into a better organization. And that vibrates with a worldwide concern of how do we do this? What are all the options out there? So organizations like the Rotary Club are key in that concept because all the elements are part of what can move them. Because again, then the example is from within to outside. So that's a little bit of what we are trying to do. I would like to thank you for this and open it to some question if you have any. The website is, and it's on the brochure. If you have a brochure, It's right here, so I'll give it to you when you leave. So it's all there, and you can feel free to reach me directly as well. My email is there, or any of us. Any other question?
So, Eric, you said you're not a member of Rotary. How did you become involved?
Through my friend with whom I'm working, David Petrucci. So David is my old friend. We've been friends for 9 years. And so we were discussing a variety of, he's a very sport-oriented, so we were discussing a variety of different things. And suddenly he was like, what about Brain Bonanza? And I was like, we coincide in terms of where we were. So David is without David, this program would not exist. He's basically who implemented it, and it's through a conversation we had together that we decided to move it forward.
What's your background?
My background? Mm-hmm. My background, I'm an acupuncturist, so I've been doing Chinese medicine for 30 years, and I teach yoga for 35 years. So the two components brought me to, the evolution was, well, how do we move someone from being like the initiator of a change to basically yoga is basically teach someone to be part of the solution. And then the clinical work, the clinical practice brought me to the question, how do we implement retention? Again, it's like you have a patient, they come here, it's one thing to say you should do this, 90% of the time they don't. So this program is built on basically the clinical experience on, okay, you have to be, if you don't look at that, every program will fail from the start. And so, thank you, so basically my approach is system thinking in terms of integrated medical model. So
I want to state the obvious. So Rotary is a group where people do get together quite regularly. And I often thought that was a very good therapeutic way to make friends and keep the brain actively stimulated. Is that a fair statement?
Totally. Totally, and that because basically part of the aging process move a person, we close our universe. Aging process as we crystallize, but not in terms of crystallized memory, what happens is that a person is unable to adapt to circumstance. So basically the coping mechanism to justify that going away from that, we just become isolated. So anything that brings a person out of isolation is very important. Getting lost, making someone trip a little bit, meeting in one, anything that makes a person move in a different direction. But so it's quite obvious. The obvious is very important.
I would ask about the yoga.
Yes.
I read a lot that it's very good for you with problems and preventing Alzheimer's, etc. But I can't get down on the floor and get back up. Is there an alternative?
Great question. And of course, I'm going to be biased because I teach yoga. So yoga is, there are two things that are really good in terms of the physical aspect of aging that I favor. Tai Chi is excellent. Tai Chi will teach a person not only to memorize new movement, so the brain is involved and the neuromodulation of the system involved. Tai Chi, in terms of research, is also the first system that regulate balance, which is really important. The cerebellum starts to go down at 55. Bad luck for all of us. 55, after that you start, and if you drink and you don't sleep enough, you are in big trouble. But so yoga, which I find to be exquisite in terms of the possibility that open to a person, is really depending on the teacher. So there is no physical limitation that impairs yoga. I will give you an example. I sometimes give lectures in Delaware into a group of Tai Chi people, and then I was called to work with a person that had I forgot. Well, anyway, she called me, she said, I would like to do some yoga with you. And I go there and I don't think about it. And she was hemiplegic, so she was paralyzed I never thought about it. So I'm at her place, I'm like, oh, what am I going to do? And we had no problem. We did a complete 1.5 hour yoga session. She moved out of her chair, we walk on the ground, and she did the whole work. So the yoga is a highly individual experience, the power of which depends on the experience of the teacher. If a person feels limited in a yoga class, it's not the person's fault, it's the teacher's fault.
So I have two questions. One
Yeah.
to piggyback on what she said. Is there something like chair yoga for someone who cannot get all the way
That's
onto
right.
the ground? Okay, so just something to get started
There's a
with.
variety of different things. There's a chair yoga. Now, the side effect of the chair yoga is that a lot of teachers then get crystallized again. They get rigid
Right.
with the chair yoga. So I once taught in Virginia, and everybody was used to a chair. And I was like, but so they had the issue differently. Everybody felt that, everybody accepted by default that they were limited. And so we got rid of the chair. And then they were like, I didn't know I could do that. So within the constraint of each individual, we have a lot of power to empower a person to move into the great experience. So that's wonderful.
Okay. My second question. Okay, so my classification is senior care. So this was very important that I heard the whole presentation.
And thank you
So,
for that.
and I wanted to show off my retention. One of the key words. So now that you've given us this presentation, and I know that you're still doing the the trial study with Carroll Creek Rotary, but what is your call to action for us? I mean, you've presented this. Now, what do you want us to do?
My hope is to basically bring an awareness that we are living in a society where aging is not going to fade away. It's going to blossom into a variety of different issues that are first in terms of the person and in terms of the different generation. My hope is that the Rotary Club becomes part of the solution in implementing, not necessarily implementing program to the outside, but implementing the program from inside that then transfuse into the outside by doing a variety of small change and also allowing the valorization and the uplifting of generation that have diamonds to offer to the rest of the club by doing very small change. That's my message.
Sorry. Okay, so I am a product of Da Vinci pairing because I grew up in the same house with my grandparents. So, I mean, is that a good start to at least go back to our clubs and try to match a senior elder member with a younger person?
Yes, I think that's a great starting
Easy
point.
to get started with.
Absolutely. Within the third unit, so you would basically, if you look at the bigger picture, you are doing something there, but how do you integrate it into something that will become a bigger whole? That's important. Otherwise, it will not go anywhere. It has to be part of a vision. Any other question? Yes.
Is this a group activity? Do you do these units together as a club, or each person goes home and does the online unit?
I'm not sure I understand the question. I'm sorry.
I'm not sure how you present this to the club.
Okay. So what we have done until now, and the club meet on Wednesday morning, and then they finish at 8:30. At 8:45, we have a 30 minutes presentation. So we try to minimize the load on a person's schedule throughout the day so that they can come. And it's really also an introduction. Learning how to breathe can take a long time, but the awareness is introduced. Thank you for that. Any other question?
Do you travel down to Rockville for the
Yeah.
Rockville Club?
I'm actually moving in Rockville in 2 weeks.
Sorry.
So,
There's a program, you present it, but then you have to do a whole set of programs to
yeah.
introduce it, to bring it to bear.
And so this great question. So the program, here is the structure again, as of now. I should have put it in a better way. Yeah, that's the program. That's the initial program. You see, it's a very pragmatic. So basically, it's 90 minutes for food, 90 minutes for eating, and then we'll have 90 minutes for interacting. Each one is 30 minutes. So it can actually be done either broken down into several weeks, or it can also be done. I will do one in Delaware where we'll just do it in one day. So basically, and then the second day, if people are interested, we can go deeper into what can we do, how do we understand, because the breathing here, I'm using this also with basically how to use a smartphone, how to use, like a friend of mine just gave me a ring that does a wonder for me. Simple thing that you can learn, because if you breathe better, if you think about it in terms of system, you have two things that go in. You have food and you have air, and then you have to eliminate it. But no one pays attention to air. And so basically this is really important. So does that answer the question?
Yes.
Great. Any other questions? Feel free to email me if you have any additional questions. I take this very dear to me. Actually, this is really part of my own maturation as a practitioner. It's kind of a place in age where I'm looking at my parents and I'm looking at the community and I'm looking at all that. It's like, what do we do? How do I address my father or my mother or my friends? What happened? Now, if I cannot answer my father, how am I going to answer a friend in a club, for example? Yes.
Yes, I may have missed it. There's a chart that you flipped through regarding gray matter. There was an arc of time.
The doom chart.
Yes.
No one likes this. I have other chart like that in terms of our internal aging, in terms of the lung, in terms of the shrinking of our spine. You mean this one?
Yes.
It is our chart. It is our companion for life.
And gray matter refers to?
Your ability to function intellectually. Okay. And so, however, plasticity is important. That means that even though it's going to go down, if you work adequately and intelligently, you can either develop other tools in terms of cognitive function, or you can adapt to a better way of working. I used to have as a student a teacher in psychology. I was 22, and he was 73, and he was always mocking us in terms of his abilities. Like basically, you may lose so basically, the key for him was like, you may lose the number of neuron of brain cell, but the connection between the remaining brain cell grows, which also opened a different issue, which is basically as you age, your perception of the universe gain perception. The wisdom of aging is right there. So there's value to aging, but there's value to aging intelligently, so that we basically become better human beings. Thank you for that question. It's a very important one. And I think we need to wrap it up, otherwise I will have the wrath of someone. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.